Hello, Bible readers. It's July 29th. We are continuing our way through Genesis, chapters 32 through 34. And then we also today are starting a new gospel, the Gospel of Matthew. To say a word about the Genesis chapters for today, this includes kind of a return to Esau and that story. We had a slight yesterday we read about Jacob and Laban. That was kind of a sidetrack story unto itself, and now we return to the narrative that is about Jacob and Esau and how that fraught relationship is going. And as Jacob is fleeing from Esau, we get that very famous story. We use it even in worship sometimes about Jacob wrestling with God at Peniel, and that wrestling is a metaphor for Israel willing and able to be present with their God in a way that is maybe unlike a lot of other cultures of their time who simply feared God, but there is a relationship between Israel and this God that brings out a different kind of relating. I thought I'd read these sentences. What kind of God is it who will be pressed to a draw by this man? And what kind of man is our father Jacob that he can force a draw even against heaven? This is no ordinary man, and certainly no ordinary God. Clearly, this is no ordinary story. For many Christians and Jews, this is a story we would circle as one of the defining stories that tells characteristics about God and who we are in the presence of God that mean a lot to how we think of God. And so that's a piece. And then after that wrestling at Peniel, you get chapters 33 and 34. The end of our readings today is a whole other narrative, a whole other story. It really does stand alone, and it's about Jacob's survival and faithfulness, he and his family, their survival and faithfulness now that they've come into the land, that the old way of doing things isn't going to cut it. Something has changed in that now Jacob is in the place that has been promised. And so there's going to have to be a new way of being. This old dog needs to learn some new tricks, you could say. As we enter into Matthew, we read the genealogy and more today, and already you'll see a difference between Matthew and Mark. And it's all about what each author wants to emphasize. Matthew would have had Mark to look at and other sources and stories to draw from. That's what experts, academics think, is that Mark is written first and then Matthew has Mark to build on. And so whenever Matthew, comparing the two is helpful because then you can see what is Matthew trying to emphasize. He sees Mark's story. He's not just going to completely retell it. He's going to put his own spin on things. And so he begins his gospel with a genealogy, because a genealogy would matter a lot to Jews especially. Where did this Jesus come from? I want to know who his dad was, who his father was, who his father, and so it adds credibility to the claim that this is Messiah by explaining the genealogy. I know a lot of time, I remember reading this as a kid and feeling like, why all these names? What does this do? It gives context to Jesus as a human. This is not a person that's just dropped out of heaven and appeared. This is a person born of a family from Israel. So the genealogy is actually claiming and saying something far more important than father begat father begat father begat father. The other thing is, the birth of Jesus is included in Matthew, and the way Matthew tells it's going to be different than Luke. Start noting the differences between what each gospel is trying to emphasize. And we'll have a lot more to say about Matthew in the days to come. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.